The Event Industry News podcast is sponsored by Present Communications. Present provides broadcast quality live, hybrid, and virtual event production trusted by organizations where reliability really matters. From corporate town halls and conferences to high profile live streams, they design and deliver fully resilient systems that work first time. Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the Event Industry News podcast with me, James Dickson. Wishing you all a very good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever or wherever you tune into today's podcast from. I'm at the end of a marathon stint today of back-to-back Monday recordings. It's been great, actually. Loads of really cool guests, and once again, on today's episode, I get to reference people from different time zones, and I always say the sort of the good morning, afternoon, or evening. You know, I started saying that by accident years ago, thinking that never quite sure when people are going to listen to the podcast. But as things have progressed, I've been fortunate enough to regularly have guests who've joined me from far-flung corners of the globe, and that intro becomes relevant to them as well, and none more so today. We're going to be talking, I guess, event tech in a loose sense, but in a slightly sort of unique and niche way that I don't think we've addressed before on the podcast. We've had loads and loads of tech providers, tech platforms come on here and talk to us about what it is that they do. But today's event tech conversation may have a slightly different angle, and that will become obvious as we get into the conversation. I'm joined today by not one, but two guests, Ray Malcham and Darcy Gabriele from BW Events Tech. And well, first of all, welcome to the episode. Nice to see you both.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And hopefully I've kind of, framed it broadly speaking in the right way there, in that, what you do as a business at BW Events Tech is unique in the sense that many people may not have encountered a company that does what you do. Before we explain to them exactly what the company does, let's start with you, Ray, if I may, first of all. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what your role is within BW Events Tech.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Malcham. I'm the COO here at BW Events. I've been with the company about almost 5.5 years, but I've been in the event technology space for about 10 years before that. I worked on the client side, so managing event technology programs for Tableau and Cisco. I spent a short time for one of the platforms in the industry on the services side, and then now work at BW in the consulting side. So I've seen event tech from kind of every different seat and reference point, and it's really good to be here. Now I manage delivery, account management, and a lot of the internal scaling operations we do to support the growth we've had.
Excellent. And Darcy, same to you. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. I'm Darcy Gabriele, the VP of Sales and Marketing at BW. And similar to Ray, I've been in the events industry my entire career. I started out as a content manager before I became an event marketer, before I switched over to the sales side, always in event technology, but in all different niches there. I joined BW about 4 years ago and never looked back.
And having done those personal intros, I hope you don't mind, I've kind of set this up, but I want you to tell people exactly what BW Events Tech does that makes it a little bit different from people thinking, oh, it's another event tech company. Ray, let me pass the baton to you, first of all, to kick this one off.
Perfect. So it's great that you set that up well, saying you've talked to a lot of providers on here before and learning what they do. And those are a lot of our partners. Where BW fits into kind of the market with event technology is we're really your platform-agnostic partner. So we work really closely with clients to fill gaps in maybe resourcing, expertise, functionality. We augment experiences, and we come in as experts in event technology, not just on one platform, but all platforms, to help our clients sometimes manage day-to-day, implement, or take their event technology to the next level. So we work really closely with all the different platforms and partners that you've kind of probably talked to or referenced in the past. And we partner with them to make sure that their clients are getting the best value from the platforms that they're paying for. And then on the client side, we help make sure that they are using the right tools and best tools for them and their portfolio and needs. And so we'll come in at a strategy and consulting spot to maybe help companies select a new tech stack or evaluate technologies for a need, We do all the management and implementation of event technology, and then we even come in on-site to manage their on-site deployment for check-in, badge printing, and that whole on-site experience.
I can almost hear people like listening to that and seeing the clouds part and sunshine coming through and going, oh, a company that actually comes in and doesn't have any allegiance or affiliation necessary to apply. They're there to help me do that, because we are, what I would say is, broadly speaking, a decade or so really into event tech being not just a niche element of running events now, but a critical part of it. But we are still in a situation where people are fearful of it. They're worried about it. They want to take on a new element or integrate something into their stack, but they're not sure how. How is it going to work? Do these guys integrate with those guys that I've used for years? All of these sort of obvious questions. And that's where you guys come in, Darcy, I guess. It's about supporting those clients to find the best solutions for them, or to find the best ways forward with the solutions that they've already got.
That's exactly right. Like, we are that service overlay across all technology work streams across the entire event lifecycle.
And how has that in the last few years, particularly, how has that become easier or more complicated? Because when people were maybe just dipping their toe into the water and starting to develop, and maybe you're starting from ground zero with a client, is it easier to work with a client who started from ground zero than it is to work with maybe a client that you come on board with nowadays who maybe have got used to a certain way of working that isn't the most efficient? Where do you sit with that, Ray?
Yeah, it's funny. It's different. And I would say, actually, I think for us probably gets easier because as we get more years of experience and more knowledge and data across working across all these programs and these clients, we're able to identify really great patterns, and we're able to continue to build and improve upon things that we've done. And so it's so nice when client comes in, they're facing a problem, but we go, oh, that's exactly like what we did with this client or this project a year and a half ago. And then they can see that value really quickly. At the same time, for us, it helps build a lot of validation that these problems that maybe clients are facing, they're not new problems in general. They maybe are new to them. And that is so helpful that we come in and we've seen it before. And yes, you're always going to have a little bit of that friction and saying, hey, we could do this better. But I think we have a lot of data to back that up now because we have so many case studies. We've been at this for a while. Like you said, we saw massive growth, after the pandemic, when event tech really became the forefront of a lot of conversations for producing events, more so in the past. And as things change, because that is the only constant, we aren't afraid of it in any way. And it actually becomes easier because we're kind of used to that evolution. We see cycles, honestly, every few years. You see stuff kind of come back again that was popular a couple of years ago, but maybe it's done in a different way, or they're using a new tool to do it. And so I think it's actually been easier and more fun and exciting to continue to hone in on craft in a way, and create something that's so uniquely BW for these clients, regardless of the tools and technologies they're using.
Yeah.
Please, Darcy, go ahead.
Yeah. So to your point, James, on the complexity, what's really cool about all of our, event technologies out there, all of our partners, is that the platforms are developing to the point that years ago we were dreaming of getting to. A lot of those platforms out there are really robust, but that's a double-edged sword, because there's no way that a single event marketer can learn all of the tools and learn how to optimize every single component of all of these different work streams. So you have someone like BW with this niche expertise coming in to supplement that knowledge. Then what's also cool, because we're so close with all of these tech platforms, is not only are we experts in them, but we are partnering with them to inform their roadmap and help develop some of these new tools and features. So we're really at that forefront of that innovation and then passing that on to our clients.
And one thing that I've not said this a long time, but it's definitely something I've said before, is that if you take something as simple as Microsoft Word or Excel, right, or PowerPoint, any one of those sort of Microsoft platforms that everyone has used at some point in their life, how much of it do we actually use when you launch a Word document? How many of the features that are actually built into that software do we use? Probably 5%, 10% at the most. People open a document, they select their font, they might do a bold heading, and then they type their document and they format it. Same with Excel, same with PowerPoint. And I've seen, and I've had firsthand experience of using quite a lot of different tech platforms in my day job outside of the podcast, and they're becoming more and more complex. The amount of sort of briefings I've sat in where they've said, "Oh, we've got all these new fancy tools," and we're like, "That's great, but we're probably just going to still use the stuff that we've used before." I just wonder how is that analogy reflective of what you deal with on a day-to-day
Well,
basis?
in that analogy, we become clippy.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. But actually, I think what's really cool is we lean into that a lot, because sometimes clients think that maybe a tool they're using isn't meeting their needs, and they're thinking that they're not able to solve a solution with that platform or that technology. And before we come in to say, "Oh, let's find you a new one," we're actually like, "Hey, let's see if we can solve your problem with your current tool," because likely and most often we can. And it is because it takes a lot of time and use cases to find that extra 80%, right, in a tool. And one person kind of doing maybe a consistent type of event that has no need to go kind of explore different aspects of the tool is going to have that expertise. So it is a great analogy you say, like, it takes a lot of time and just hours and problem solving and trial by error, because a lot of the times that we're innovating is because a client says, "Hey, could we do this?" Or, "Is it possible to do this?" And our team goes, "Let's see if we can," or like, "Let me pop under the hood," or like, "Let's see if we could leverage something we built for another client to do the thing that you're trying to do." And it's actually really cool. As Darcy mentioned, these platforms are getting to a point that we dreamed of 5 or 10 years ago being able to do. Makes them more complex. But for us, it keeps opening up more opportunities for us to up-level, customize, enhance, or use budget for other customizations, because now a tool can do something in 5 minutes that used to take our team 5 hours of customization. And so that's why, again, we're not ever intimidated by tools continuing to innovate, because it just opens up more space and time and budget for us to take on more challenges and like up level things even more. So yeah, it's been really cool. But a lot of these tools, we say, like, I don't know, what do they say with like skiing and snowboarding? Like, one's easy to learn, hard to master, and one's like harder to learn, but then easier to master. Yeah. Like, I think some of these tools, like, they're designed to have like a low, easy to learn, but hard to master, right? And so they want to get people in and figure out a way that event marketer can have that instant value and like build an event on their own. But is it that, like you said, Microsoft Word, is it that 10%? And then how do they figure out that other 80 to 90% that the tool is capable of?
And I wonder as well how many rash decisions have been made by organizers, Darcy, who've said, "Oh, this platform isn't really doing what I want to do, so we probably need a new platform." And how many people don't underestimate the time investment that has then a financial impact on their business in changing platforms? If you can just invest a little bit of time through your services, for example, in actually finding out if the tool you're using can do what you want it to do, you're going to save yourself the time, which represents money, and not having to change to another platform.
Which you actually do bring up a good point on the time segment, which is the other thing that we really work with our clients on, is building out the event tech stack and building out for each individual event correctly the first time. Because what we're doing is we're really understanding what is that end attendee experience, what is that end deliverable, and then we're building starting from the end, right from the beginning, so that you're not doing the, "Oh no, we just realized we've hit this roadblock because we didn't do it right the first time." And so we take the time to really think through how to do all of that. And then, of course, everything's on shorter planning cycles today than ever before.
Yeah, and I've been there. I worked on an event in February this year, and they'd used a speaker management tool to help manage all their speakers. And they had like 200 speakers speaking over 4 days at this event, multiple stages. And the platform provider I've worked with on different events before, and they were I was very lucky that they approached me and said, look, we need somebody who knows our platform to be at the event, to do a bit of on-site support. So it's my first sort of foray into working at an event, and instead of doing it on the production side, actually being there as support specifically for a platform. And literally on day one that I arrived, I realized that the client had built the entire thing and done something fundamentally wrong that took us a day to an entire working day to undo it. And had they just been told at the very, very start, when you get to this stage, don't do this, do that.
If only they had the expert there. I saw a funny bumper sticker on like a home contracting truck that said, "We fix what AI told you to do." And I was like, what an apt metaphor for the VW service layer.
Absolutely. And what AI told you to do, I used this on last week's episode, so forgive me, podcast followers, for repeating myself, but I saw an AI generated digital poster in a restaurant for a forthcoming event that they were hosting, and it was a country music themed event, and they'd used AI to generate it. And I knew that for two reasons. Number one, it looked like every other AI generated music event poster that you see on social media now, which really annoys me. And secondly, there was a typo in it. It spelled the word saddle incorrectly, and it was right there in the middle of it, and nobody had spotted it. And you know, that's going to be my AI story and reference point now for the foreseeable future. Is it's often wrong. You must check it, because if you don't, it will make you look like a fool.
And we can't accept lower quality work. This is something I'm very passionate about. We have to hold ourselves within the events industry to the same high standard that we always did. We cannot let the fast cycles and the ease of AI reduce the quality of the work output.
Absolutely. If we can, we're kind of, you know, halfway through today's chat. I looked at some notes that you very kindly sort of sent through in advance, and the thing that I've circled here on my notes is tech tour stories. And I read it and I thought, I think I can picture what this is, but I really wanted you guys to kind of frame it for me, if you would, Ray, and just tell me what this tech tour was.
Yeah. So it's, you know, what's funny is way back, I'll give a little backstory on it too. It's just fun. But I met our founder, Brandon Wernley. That's the BW in BW events. We worked together at Cisco a long time ago. And when we did Cisco Live, which was a, you know, 30,000 plus event, we were asked a couple times to do what they called a tech tour, which was to give like a walking tour of all the different technology deployments at Cisco Live. And so some of it was some of like other event planners at Cisco, some partners. And so we started at registration. We walked through any, you know, unique challenges, who we were using, the vendors, and we kind of went into the expo hall, and then we went to some sessions, and then we highlighted things in the mobile app. And every year, you know, we're trying to introduce a couple new innovative things that we've done. And it was always so cool and so insightful to like not only, you know, recap the great work we've done, but invite others into it as a shared experience, because, you know, who likes to gatekeep information? We don't like to gatekeep. And so at BW, we saw a lot of value in doing that again, but right on this side, it's for the technology we've provided for a client. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, like some clients think they're facing unique challenges and they're not, but they work in silos, and it's really rare that they get to connect with their peers. And so we've started a new tech tour series where we select a few events where there's a lot of maybe complex technology happening at the program, and we invite some clients or even just some colleagues in the industry to come and not only see the technology deployed in real time and get that demo experience in real life and ask questions, but they also get to connect with each other and talk about problems they're facing at the same time, and see, you know, they're not alone. And sometimes they leave those days and those tours like with new ideas, new insights, and it might not have even been from BW. It might just be, you know, like we like to connect people in the industry and bring them together. And so at the recent one, I actually wasn't able to be at. Darcy was. So maybe Darcy, if you want to share some of the outcomes or kind of unique stories from the tech tour that we did that were really cool.
It was really cool to see it live in action because the depth of questions that people were able to ask and discuss in the middle of the tech tour was so much deeper than you could ever get from pretty much any other event context. So we kind of curated it so that we had 7 different technology touch points, and at each touch point the attendees got to chat with the client stakeholder and one of the BW stakeholders. And we got into some really niche topics, but was so beneficial. And the overwhelming conversation after the tech tour was, oh my gosh, I didn't even know, I never even thought that you can do it this way. You know, we were talking about like the integration between the call for sessions, the speaker management, and the actual content management piece, which for this event was actually like 3 different tools, so to speak, because there was a lot of, you know, unique dependencies for this company.
Sure.
And just the way that they achieved it. And so, I mean, notes were being taken, ideas were being shared. It was really, really just cool to see. And the people that we invited on this tour, these are people who are hosting 10,000 person conferences. You know, these are people who are at the top of the industry, but they're going to this event that's 35, 40,000 people, seeing it at a different scale and just getting this really niche knowledge that you really can only get when you're in the middle of the event.
Yeah, and I guess for you as a business as well, you know, hearing those conversations, getting that feedback and just eavesdropping on you know the chat that's taking place, that's got to be valuable for your business as well, to understand what the pain points are of your clients.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's actually one of our favorite things is how we've developed this little community amongst our clients where there gets to be that knowledge share, but more roundtable discussion, ideation and innovation when we all get together and get to chat.
And there's 2 schools of thought, Ray, on things like this. And I've heard both sides where somebody says, well, we don't want to share too much information because we're worried then if people learn how to do it without our support, you know, they're not going to need us anymore. There's the other school of thought, which I'm much more inclined to agree with, which is that if you can share that knowledge and allow people to share knowledge and learn, what it does is it paints you in an even better light as an expert, as people who know what they're talking about and can be trusted with it. If you're a closed book and you look like you've got secrets, you don't want to give them away, I think personally that can have a negative effect. And I'm getting the sort of the feeling that you guys are very much into that open knowledge sharing, that's going to reinforce the values that you have.
Yeah, definitely. And it's both. We have had clients leave saying, we're going to do this on our own now, or approach us with the idea that like, help us do this year 1, and then we'll run with it. Like train the person and then we'll do it. And I do think, I mean, I don't have the data in front of me, but we've actually had a lot of clients come back after a year off where they try and go do it themselves. And then the thing is, right, they might have figured out how to do that baseline, but then now they're asked to do something new, or something new is introduced, and they come back to us. And what we like is that our support is flexible. Like sometimes a gap that we filled with a client is no longer a gap that they need. And so we can kind of morph into a new support structure, which we like and are happy to do. Like I always say, if you have the people to do it internally, like absolutely, like amazing. Like if you have the team, great. Like we're here to fill gaps. We're here to augment. We're here to customize. We don't want to be redundant or, you know, or duplicate work that you already have covered in your team. Like we're here to find ways to, you know, either scale or support or grow. On the side of sharing, yes, I think what we have found and what's really unique, because we work with some of the, you know, large recognizable brands. Every problem that they are facing is not unique. Like most of the time, I mean, sometimes we've been on calls where 3 calls in a week, the same, you know, you're like something's trending or like something's in the water. Like, okay, this is the 3rd time on this call a client has like brought this up. And so we love to share and then see that light bulb, like you say, go off. If I can share a recent example, you know, we have a lot, like Cannes Lions is a huge festival where a lot of these brands host multiple events throughout a week. And so they'll use Splash actually is like the most common tool used, I think, by a lot of the companies. They create a unique registration for every single event. So they might have like a VIP, you know, dinner, and then like an open rooftop, or a, you know, select group of like a happy hour. And they register people for these all separately. So if I'm an attendee, I've been invited to this brand's, happy hour activation, a one-on-one meeting, I might have 4 or 5 different confirmation emails in my email. And so we worked with one client who really wanted to solve the check-in process at the event when someone might be registered for 3 or 4 different things that they have going on that week. Mm-hmm. We integrated all those splash events into one parent event and distributed wallet passes that were tied to all of your registrations. So each attendee that was registered for any number of those events by this one brand got a wallet pass that they could add to their phone wallet. And that was tied to any number of events they were registered for throughout the week. So that was just one QR code they had to have on hand. They didn't have to go searching for different confirmation codes or different confirmation emails throughout the week. And it allowed for seamless entry at any point to any of their programming for 5 days. Then I meet with another client that we're working with in person at Cannes. She's like repeating the same problem to me, like, oh yeah, we have this hub. We're trying to consolidate like 7 or 8 different events that we have into one and make it easier. I pull up my phone and I was like, here's what we did. We have this wallet pass. She goes, I need this. Like, why haven't we done this before? And so it's really cool to get to say like, hey, your problem you're not alone in your problem. Like it's a great community. And I think one thing we love is removing any competition. Like one innovation makes everyone else a little bit better and a little bit better, which we've really enjoyed getting to do like alongside our clients and getting to like share the love is what we say.
And what you've just described there is, it is, in your specific example, is an event tech problem that you solved. But what you've got there is the wider expectations from the public now. At any type of event is if you've booked travel somewhere and you've got to take 2 or 3 flights, so you've got to make 2 connections, you will have one boarding pass on your phone, and that pass will be relevant for all 3 flights. You're not carrying multiple documentations for each connecting flight. It's about people's expectations day to day now. If the big companies can do it with travel and things like that, then when it comes to an event, they will instantly ask, why do I need 5 tickets for these 5 different things? You're all one event. So it's the technology that we use on a day-to-day consumer level now, I think, drives a lot of the expectations in the event tech space.
Yeah, Darcy was saying she's very, very passionate about quality. And I feel like I'm very passionate about looking at everyday technology that we're used to and how should this support events? Like, why are we reinventing things when we already have tools in the world that we're used to using to solve problems? Which is why I was fiercely passionate about bringing wallet passes to conferences, because I said, we're used to this. Like, this is a normal part of our behavior. So I'm really passionate about, like, we don't need to reinvent. Let's like use great technology that's out there to make an experience more seamless, or like exactly like you said, meet the expectation of attendees, which is getting higher and higher and higher. Like we were talking about that a lot at Cannes. Like the expectation is so high now from attendees and users. They keep raising the bar. And so like keeping that in mind with Darcy's passion of like quality has to maintain like the highest priority, where it's a great opportunity if you're like excited about it. It can be intimidating if you want to cut corners, because the expectations are only going to continue to get higher.
Yeah, and sometimes I've found as well, and operationally, Darcy, I'd love to know, get your take on this. I was running a business conference a couple of weeks ago, and I do 8 of these a year for a client, and I'll not say which sort of industry it's for, but it's what I would call like an old school style conference. And I've been saying for ages that they're spending too much money on print still, right? So they're printing delegate brochures with all the information about the conference in there that are handed out at registration. And they were trialing an event at in a new location that they'd never run one of these events before. So it was likely going to be all new. There were going to be no repeat delegates. And I said, don't print the delegate brochure, put it on a QR code. And I've been trying to get them to do this for ages. And they said, no, our audience is really old school. They like the printed brochure. And I said, yeah, but they've never been before. If you remove the choice and just tell them that this is what they need to do, people do have a herd mentality sometimes. And they said, oh yeah, but they might not be very tech savvy. And that always annoys me and rattles me when people say, oh, I'm not very tech savvy. Because if you can go on your holiday and board a plane with your boarding pass on your phone, or if you can get Netflix to work on your TV, I'm not buying anybody who says I'm not very technology savvy anymore. So
Right.
the outcome of this was that 2 weeks ago, I turned up, they gave me some printed brochures. I didn't put them out of registration. I left them in the box. I made the operational decision on site to only have the QR code. And as delegates arrived at registration, I said, scan that QR code there, and that will take you to today's delegate brochure as in a digital format. Not one person complained.
Wow.
Not one person said, have you not got a printed one? They all just got their phones out their pockets or out their handbags, out their bags. They scanned the QR and they said, thank you very much. And away they went.
And what did the event organizer think of this?
Well, I told them afterwards. I said I said everybody scanned the QR code, and they said, "Oh, that's much better than we expected." And I said, "Yeah, caveat: I didn't put any of the printed brochures out. I removed the choice from them." And I think sometimes with things like that, you have to be confident enough to say, "Look, trust us on this. It will work." Remove the choice. Don't second guess your people.
Right.
You know, sometimes you do have to listen to delegate feedback and audience feedback, but sometimes I think, and this is probably more relevant to you guys than any other tech provider, given what you do, have confidence in the advice that you can give the client.
Right. Because I would also say, like, yes, you should know your audience, and yes, you should cater to that audience. But in this instance, it sounds like we were really operating on like, well, this is just what we've always done, instead of really forcing through. Like, perhaps our audience has actually grown and changed along with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And the QR thing, I've had this debate before. The pandemic brought QR codes to the masses. They were there before, but as soon as restaurants started opening up, or as soon as in the UK, as soon as there was a hint that the pub would be open, but you had to sit outside and scan a QR to get a drink, people were there. People were suddenly downloading apps on their phones, and they were learning within 30 seconds how to use a QR code so they could get a pint.
It's so funny because before the pandemic, I mean, as working in event technology, like no one wanted QR codes anymore. They said, oh, that feels so stale, outdated. We want RFID, we want NFC chips, like everything needs to be with that. And then who knew the pandemic would be the comeback of the century for the QR code, and everyone realizing it's actually so practical. So now, I mean, we rarely have a client want or request or want to like move budget aside specifically for like NFC and RFID experiences, because they've realized like people are so accustomed to the QR code. It's not like assaulting to see a QR code anymore. And, you know, it is a financial saving, and it is a way, you know, to get the job done. And it's so popular now. It's so funny, like to watch that totally boomerang back into the events industry. Sometimes now too much. I'm like, you can't have a QR code like for everything, but it has been funny to see it make such a big comeback.
You're carrying something around that can do all of this already. Why? I appreciate there are still cases for it and for smart badges and things like that. Absolutely, without a doubt. But, you know, in terms of hardware deployment, why not take advantage of the fact that every single person pretty much on Earth now has access to something that can scan a few black and white squares and access anything that you want to put behind that link within a matter of seconds.
To that point, one of the innovations that we're seeing right now that I'm really excited about is really leveling up these event mobile apps and making them far more integrated into the total experience. Like, I'm working with somebody right now their event takes place, you know, over a really large golf course, and they want the event mobile app to pop up with specialty information depending on where you're standing in that golf course, almost like a Pokemon Go kind of AR sort of experience. But it's like they really want people to be in that app and like leveraging the data and the information that's in there for this very cool, like, holistic experience.
It's great, isn't it, how we can actually use those tools to give people, you know, that some sort of the hands-on experience or the real life experience that they want, but using a digital tool. There's a great sort of, you know, paradox, if you can call it that, in there somewhere, that we can use this digital technology and this virtual technology to actually improve human experiences and interactions. I find it fascinating. Tell me about I've got one eye on time and conscious of time and having two guests on today's episode, but and affording you both the luxury of a little bit more than normal. But in terms of developments and trends, you've mentioned the word trends a couple of times, Ray, about just speaking to clients, and sometimes there might be a week where there's certain trends. Is it something that actually we're experiencing less of in the industry in terms of trends? Are people a little bit more free thinking now, where they don't necessarily just want to do something because they've seen their competitor doing it? Do you find that there's a little bit more of a free thinking approach, particularly since the pandemic, amongst clients that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, if I can be honest, no shade to our clients, of course. I think there's always this balance, like that desire, like we really want to be different. We want to do things different. And that takes time sometimes, and it takes a lot of buy-in. And people are very used to things a certain way, as Darcy mentioned earlier. And so I think, and I do see it more for sure, because especially with content being put on LinkedIn all the time from events, like we're seeing all the cool different things that people are doing. And I do think we've turned a bit of a chapter the last year, especially with the movement of the creator economy and brands leaning into like incorporating creators and content creation into their event experience, doing things differently. But there still is such a comfort in a lot of the traditional conference model, especially when it comes to events, and like in the event technology. We love when a client really wants to like push the boundaries and ask, like, what can we do here? Or, we're being challenged to, one of my favorite is when clients say like, we work with a lot of tech companies, we're being challenged to use our own technology in the event experience. Like, how can we incorporate our own tech into the tech, into the experience? And then it can be really cool challenge to do that. And also the pushing the boundaries and doing things creative and different. It's not always flashy. Sometimes it's like very unnoticed, but it's like a enhancement to the experience, or it's reducing friction, which I always enjoy as well. Like the innovation doesn't always have to be right in your face. Sometimes it's not noticed, which, is like sometimes the best event technology. It's like, it just works. And so you don't get comments on it, but that means it worked as it should. So I am seeing it more. I think the experiential, like we're seeing more and more of that, like brand activation, experiential marketing intersecting with conferences more and more, especially as maybe event and marketing budgets are getting merged to kind of accomplish both. And so it's fun to see both sides kind of benefit from that, like people that are maybe more traditionally event activation experience marketers that come from maybe more of the brand and advertising space, and then conference and event planners kind of working across both. So I think what we're creating, like more well-rounded experiences, and getting to see both kind of come to the table with their expertise to make both sides better.
It's interesting. Yeah. Go on, Darcy. You had some to add.
The only thing I was going to add was, even though I do feel like event marketers are very much like looking at innovation and being these free thinkers, I'm also finding that no one is planning events in a silo. The community is so strong, and there is so much like peer-to-peer validation, peer-to-peer conversation and collaboration that's happening, that there is this like very free-flowing idea share that we're seeing. And it's actually kind of fun for me, who like talks to a bunch of different event marketers every single day, where I'll be like, oh my gosh, you're trying to solve a problem that my friend over here is also trying to solve. Why don't I just get us together in a call and really discuss it together? And then we can all ideate and innovate at the same time. So I actually think I'm seeing more collaboration than ever before.
Wow. I mean, collaboration is great, but one thing that sort of occurred to me, we've all been to events where we've seen panel discussion, the latest trends for 2026 or the predictive trends for 2026. And it occurred to me that every event organizer wants their event to be unique. Every event organizer wants their event to be different from their competitor's event or from similar events in that industry or for that marketplace, whether it's B2B or B2C. So in some respects, why would they want to know what the trends are? because why would they want to follow what everybody else is doing? So the whole sort of trends discussion is an interesting one to me in the event space, when you think about events really wanting to be unique and having their own identity.
Though I agree with that, I will say the way that a trend gets applied in like a fintech space versus a healthcare space versus like a, I don't know, like construction tech
Sure,
space,
yeah.
those trends will get applied so differently that on the surface, you might not even think that they're the same thing at all, even if the underlining attendee goal or attendee experience is the same. So I do think because everyone is really catered to their unique audience, they get to apply it in just enough of a unique way that it's the feeling rather than the execution is the trend.
And that application, the unique application, will be where you guys come in.
That's exactly.
And I think that's where we can see the disconnect, is when someone tries to apply the trend without thinking about how it translates to their audience. And exactly like you can see, sometimes it just doesn't. And that takes some finessing and expertise to go, okay, like what they did, but how would that work with our format or our guests or our attendees? Because sometimes it doesn't land. And like you said, the expectations are high. So it is a consistently fun challenge to figure out how to bring some of the same solutions in ways that cater to different technologies and industries as a whole.
Yeah,
we've been talking. Sorry, go on, Darcy.
I was just saying, I always challenge people to think of the why behind something instead of the how or the what, and then really focusing in on that, the why, and then building it out from there.
No, absolutely. I was just going to say thank you very much for your time both today. We've been talking on the Event Industry News podcast to BW Events Tech, and specifically to Ray Malcham and Darcy Gabriele, who've been generous enough, I would say, on this Monday morning and Monday afternoon, depending on where you are, giving up your time today to have a bit of a chat with us. And I always like to say that we want to leave people on the podcast with more unanswered questions than answered ones, so that they go off and do their own thinking, their own research, get in touch with my guests, see what conversations they can pick up beyond this podcast. So if people want to find out a bit more about you, Darcy, Ray, tell us where they need to go.
Find me on LinkedIn. I'm really active on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Darcy Gabriele, so I should be pretty easy to find.
Yep. And same here. And of course, our website's bweventstech.com. We have a great form if you want to fill out a form. But as Darcy said, our team and both of us are really active on LinkedIn. Happy to respond to any DMs and messages and let us know you guys heard the podcast. So many ways to get in touch.
Fabulous. And just to repeat that, bweventstech.com. Remember the S in the middle. I bet a lot of people miss the S out. I bet a lot of people just put event tech. So really important. BW Events with an S. tech.com is the website. Go and check those guys out. Find out a little bit more about the good work they are doing. And thanks again for your time today and joining the podcast. Just a couple of wrap-ups from me before we end fully today. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you're listening to today's podcast on your audio platform, please do make sure that you head over to eventindustrynews.com when you get a moment, just to check out the latest news, features, special supplements that are available on the website, and of course the A to Z supplier directory. If you work in the events industry and you're looking for a product, service, or supplier, the chances are you will find it on the supplier directory over on eventindustrynews.com, where you can find video versions of all of the podcasts. Of course, you may have started your journey there today by watching today's podcast on the website. If you've done that, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. Please do make sure that you go over to your audio podcast platform as well, and make sure that you are liked and subscribed to the podcast. My thanks again to both of my guests, and we'll see everybody on the next edition of the Event Industry News podcast. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks.